Hello, I'm out on the Hammersmith and City and Circle line on an S-Dock train, heading for Wood Lane, the next station in our Decade series. So in the decade of the 2000s, there were only 2 new London Underground stations, and they both opened in 2008. Wood Lane here in the autumn, and early in the year, Heathrow Terminal 5 had opened as well. Now, the current day Wood Lane opened 2 weeks before the Westfield shopping centre, which is very much next door, dominating the skyline, as it was part funded by them. And I say current day Wood Lane because there were very much 2 previous stations. And we can't do Wood Lane, oh look, there goes a train. We can't do Wood Lane without immediately talking about the 2 former abandoned stations that used to be here. Yes, there were previous Wood Lane stations. Today's modern day station is just the other side of the railway there, where that train is pulling in, but there was one here, the other side of the road here by this bridge, and there's one behind me here, which is where Westfield Shopping Centre is. So let's drop to a graphic and a map and talk about the previous 2 now abandoned Wood Lane stations. The history of Wood Lane Station actually involves the Central Line, which used to terminate at Shepherd's Bush, but there was a section of track heading westbound that curved to the right and went up to a depot. That depot track was extended to form a loop that trains went round in an anti-clockwise fashion, and a platform added on the curve for the first ever Wood Lane station. But when the Central Line was extended, 2 new platforms were installed, and the Central Line then went to White City and beyond. And you can see from this configuration it's why trains at White City arrive on the right hand side, an unusual configuration. The Central Line Wood Lane station closed in 1947, and a new piece of track was introduced for westbound trains. And during all this time, there had been a separate second station on the Hammersmith and City line, also called Wood Lane, which had opened, had a 6-year closure, reopened, renamed itself to White City, and then closed in 1959. White City on the Central line to the north was always a separate station, and of course, where we are now, the present day Wood Lane station, which opened in 2008. Now, to get to Wood Lane, I'd actually timed my journey from the previous station, Shepherd's Bush Market, because I'd seen an old blog post online that said that Monument to Cannon Street is the shortest distance time-wise between 2 Circle or Hammersmith and City line stations. But this one is also super short, and on the day I did it, it took just 48 seconds. And the station itself, well, yes, you can clearly see it was built in the decade of the 2000s. It's silver, it's shiny, long metal and glass everywhere type of construction. But it's on the bit below that is actually nicely atmospheric, where the lifts and steps lead up to the platforms. This now incorporates the brick arches that the railway runs on. It just looks really nice. And interestingly, when it opened in 2008, it was purely a Hammersmith and City line station. The change that meant that Circle Line trains also ran down through here on the way to Hammersmith didn't happen until a year after it opened in 2009. And because of that, note how, up here, along the top there, where the wording is for Wood Lane, there's just the pink colour of the Hammersmith and City. There's no yellow colour for the Circle Line as well. I feel like they should have come back and updated that to be pink and yellow, the 2 colours of the 2 lines that pass through here. And I found that there's a reference to this in the lifts as well. There's 4 lifts here. When you get in, listen, the announcer only mentions the Hammersmith and City line and not the Circle. And at the bottom of the steps of the westbound platform is something rather splendid, an original mosaic roundel. This was rescued from the Central Line Wood Line station and restored by the London Transport Museum at Acton, and is now on display here, nicely preserved and exhibited in the modern station. Now, White City Central Line is just up the road, and right outside Wood Lane station, where there's this bridge across the tracks, you can also peek over the wall, just about here, and look down and see the point where Central Line trains pop out on the right hand side. It's a shame that Wood Lane isn't an interchange connection with White City, but the 2 stations are really close. The official TfL signage says that it's 250 metres walk on the same side of the road, and seeing as I was timing things earlier in this video, I got out my stopwatch again and I thought I'd time the walk up to the Central Line station from Wood Lane. And at an average pace, it really is quite quick, just over 2 minutes. Keep walking past White City Tube Station though, and you get to White City Place. Now, the original Wood Lane stations were built to serve both the Franco-British exhibition and the 1908 Summer Olympics. And if you keep walking up into White City, there's this, an Olympic plaque, and also on the ground, which many people walk over without seeing, that shows where the finish line was for the White City Stadium. Okay, so heading back to Wood Lane from White City, and as I do, I'm going to tell you about today's sponsor, Incogni. If you're online as much as I am, you may be aware that companies on websites do collect your data as you go about your online business, and they're known as data brokers. The data that they have about you can then be sold on to others, which could potentially be used for scams or identity thefts in your name. Now, legally, you can get your data removed by contacting websites individually and asking them to take it down, or you can get Incogni to automate the process for you. Incogni will do all the hard work for you to clean up all your digital data that's online on your behalf. You simply sign up with them, tell them to work on your behalf, and the process is then automated, as they then get your information removed and you can log in to check to see who they've contacted and what progress has been made. You'll also be notified from companies when your data has been removed. This could be simple newsletters you signed up to that you no longer want, or a loyalty card, and your data is then used to contact you about something else from somebody else that you didn't even know about. Incogni will clean all this up for you. And there's also now a new custom removals feature which lets you dig into websites that you specifically know that you want to clean up. So if you want to take your personal data back, then sign up with Incogni, and you can use the code Geoff at this link that's on screen now to get 60% off an annual plan. Alright, back to Wood Lane. Now, I think that the whole of Wood Lane is actually quite photogenic. The glass and silver surfaces everywhere are reflective, making it a great place to take fun and artistic photographs. Everywhere you turn in the station, it seems like there's a reflection somewhere. And if you've not been to the area in recent years, you should come, mainly to see how redeveloped it all is now, a contrast to what it was like just a few years ago. And if you want to go abandoned station hunting for the old Wood Lane stations, then you can easily find the spot of the Central London Railway Wood Lane station, which is this building here, where you can clearly see now that there are air vent grills at the top of this building, showing that there is something down below. The Grade 2 listed Dibco buildings are still here too nearby, originally built in 1898 as an electrical power station for the Central London Railway. The buildings are now part of White City Bus Station. And then finally, if you take a walk down past the railway arches alongside the old Metropolitan line, now Hammersmith City, down to McFarlane Road, then there's some old signage here, clearly in London Underground Johnston font, and this is the location of the entrance to the old Wood Lane station that was here too. And so that is your decade station from the 2008 is when Wood Lane opened. And the good news is that although new tube stations were built in the 2010s, there were some overground stations that opened up in that decade in the 2010s. So that is what I'll be concentrating on for my next decade. As always, thanks for watching. See you in the next video.